listening to Making Data Simple, where we make the world of data effortless, relevant, and yes, even fun.
Welcome to the Making Data Simple podcast, folks. If it's your first time, it's about time you got here. And if you're back, thank you. We greatly appreciate it. Today, I have a guest by the name of Tom Taulli. And Tom is a blogger, an investor, advisor to startups. I know he writes in Forbes about AI frequently, so he's perfect for this podcast. We'll probably get into a little bit of everything. But I guess I'll just start out and say, welcome, Tom. Appreciate you being here.
Thanks very much for having me.
So would you mind describing or introducing yourself? You could certainly do it better than me, I'm sure.
Yeah, I mean, that pretty much, describes what I do. Do a little this, little that. In terms of my background, in terms of technology, I've been coding since I was a kid back in the 1980s, and started a company while I was in college in the e-learning category, even before the internet existed, and we went to the internet. And then I invested in different companies. One was JFax, which is now J2 Global, Green Dot, and a variety of other companies early on. So I'm have a lot of background when it comes to technology, early stage technology, how to build it, how to get money for it, and those types of things. And then the writing, I've done that early on as well. For Forbes, I've written for Forbes since the mid-90s, I think, since they had their .com site in the mid-90s, and covered mostly technology and companies in the technology space. And then also I've written some books, and then the latest one, which will come out in mid-August, is called AI Basics, and it's for non-technical people, which is most people in the world, and so it covers all the main topics that people that may be building AI projects or involved in AI projects, and they don't know Python or they don't know TensorFlow. This would be the book for them. So it covers the topics of, on a very high level, but also with specific advice. And that's what I also do with my Forbes articles. I write about topics that are relevant to people in the real world, not things that for academics. So that's a little bit about my background.
So how do you I'm going to go ahead and jump into this question. A lot of times I end with some personal questions, but how do you end up in there? I mean, that's a pretty freaking good gig, I would say. You're blogging. It sounds like you're doing what you want to do. We haven't even got to the investor part. You've got a couple different books. By the way, I know you've got How to Create the Next Facebook out there.
Yeah.
Let me give you the full title: How to Create the Next Facebook, Seeing Your Startup Through from Idea to IPO. You've got the Complete M&A Handbook. There's probably others that I'm missing.
Yeah, I've definitely been very blessed. It all starts with my dad, who, when I was a kid, bought me a computer, put it on my desk, and left my room. And that was
that was the most important part. He left your room.
He left the room. He didn't tell me what to do. He just said, "Here it is. Do what you want." And so for a couple of days, I didn't know what to do. And then I thought maybe I should do something, and then I did. And it's been that way ever since. So I think it's a combination of having a family that's really supported someone who just is not into a 9-to-5 job situation, and likes to do what he wants to do, and allow that, and provide me some tools to do what I want to do. And it's helped me a great deal. And I also think luck has a lot to do with it. I think Woody Allen says success is half of success is just showing up, just being there. I think another piece of luck too is, I had the benefit of early on being part of the internet revolution, and it was hard not to be successful in those days. Now it was easy not to be successful if you held on a little too long, but for the most part, I think it's just I owe a lot to my father. I think he was, and my mom. I think it all started there.
So good old dad and mom for buying the computer. Can I ask you what computer it was?
Atari 400 with a cassette.
You got to start someplace.
That's right.
Perfect.
16,
Atari 400.
16 kilobits of RAM, if I remember right.
Wow.
Yeah.
And what did you do with that Atari 400?
I learned BASIC. I wanted to. There were a lot of programs in, and then there was a movie called War Games that I just loved. And I thought, how can I create a program that shoots ICBMs at Russia? I didn't really like that.
How did that end up?
It was tough. But it actually they were flying. And I made little explosions, so it was fun. But I created my own software. The funny thing is, I started in those days. They had magazines where the code would be in the magazines. I mean, and they may even sell it, come with a cassette or at some point a diskette. So I started creating these programs, and I started reading these magazines, and I started then submitting these to these magazines, and they started publishing them.
Did you have any social life, man?
It was, in those days they didn't know how old you were or where you're from. Just all they cared about was does it work, and for the most part it did.
That's fantastic. So you also, you say you're an advisor to startups. Are you on a lot of different boards, or?
Yeah, I'm actually at one right now. I'm in the boardroom right now of a company.
Oh, really?
No, there aren't people around here, but we actually are having a review right now today. So yeah, I'm as an investor. Sometimes I try not to be on boards because there's sometimes liability issues with that. So maybe more a board of advisors.
Right.
Yeah. So I try to stay in the game a little bit. I think I'm a little too old to start anything ever again. I don't know if I want to go do that again, unless I really have a great idea, and it's hard to come up with those nowadays because there's so many ideas out there, so many people pursuing them. But it's fun to be part of other people that are doing it.
So, and then you hit on the last point, which is, well, I don't know what the last point, but you hit on investor. Mm-hmm. So you spend a lot of your time investing in startups, or is investing, simply in market, real estate? I mean, I presume startups is a big piece of your portfolio.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, with these startups, but I've been a long time investor in the stock market as well. It's been a good ride the last 10 years, so I can't complain.
The last 10 years have been good.
Yeah.
Although I honestly, I've been waiting for the reset to happen for probably the last 2.5, maybe 3 years now. I don't know. Am I the only one? I think I'm the only one because I've pulled back a little bit. Now I'm thinking I'm stupid.
No, there's a lot of people that left in 2009 haven't come back.
Well, that's
yeah.
I came back. I've been in it longer than that, but the last couple of years I've been like, I can't. Look, I don't want to get us in the weeds here, but I just when I do the cash flow analysis, I just can't find anything that's no, you can't find anything on sale, but it's hard to find anything worth the price that it's at. I don't know. You're a better investor than me. That's why you're an investor and I'm not.
Well, it's patience is a virtue with investing. I do a lot with IPOs, and usually if you wait long enough, the stock price will come down. So it's not just technology. Biotechnology is another area I've focused on, and probably have had more success in biotechnology than regular technology.
Well, I watch Buffett a lot, and he's still, in tons of cash. Of course, he's got the cash, but he's still in tons of cash. He's waiting for something.
Yeah, he can wait. Although he is in his late 80s, but he may last forever. Yeah.
Well, Charlie Munger was like 94, 95, something like that. I don't know. Anyway, we're off topic. But I would like some investment advice. I need some, that's what we need to hook up on. No, so look, I know you. How do you? So in all of this, how did you become an AI expert? Because I know you write a lot about AI. If I go out to Forbes, there's at least you got robots plus AI. Boring is beautiful. 3 ways to transform the supply chain with AI. I'd like to talk a little bit about all that, but how do you become that expert in AI that you are today? And then you're writing the book of AI basics. By the way, I wish it was available now. I could give that to a lot of people.
Yeah, well, when you look at my articles in Forbes, if you look at a topic, that was probably a chapter I was writing about at the time. Uh, the benefit of writing for Forbes is I can talk to a lot of smart people, and they can guide me into the right direction, where to focus on. I can't do that all on my own. So I can talk to, I can usually, if I say I'm from Forbes and I want to write about your company, they usually get back to me. And so I can talk to people that can provide this great information. That is a huge help for me about learning, because you can go down so many rabbit holes with AI. There's just so much to it, and you can waste a lot of time. So I think that's huge. Now with AI, I've kind of dabbled in AI for years, but AI never really did anything. It was, mostly about movies and science fiction, and you'd hear a little bit here and there about AI, and it just wasn't moved to commercialization until the last few years. And then at that point, that's when I really got interested in it, and started writing more about it for Forbes.com. As for the book, what I found is I said, well, I'd be interested in reading a good book on this, but they were really two buckets. There's the technical bucket of, I need to know Python, I need to know TensorFlow, I need to code. Most people don't need to do that or know that. And then there's the other bucket of books about robots are going to take over the world. And I thought, where's something in the middle for people that want to understand this, and the key concepts without getting into the weeds and what's important. What I've also found too, I've talked to people at KPMG and people you would think that would know a lot about AI, and they have a hard time differentiating between all these concepts. I think part of it is the media, the media that, these terms get thrown around and it gets confusing for people. And then what's ironic is people you would think that would know who actually don't know. So that's
yeah, no, I think that's a common. Everybody is flocking to AI, and we've talked about this before in the podcast. But it's like they don't even have a business problem; they just know they need to go to AI, and they're like, okay, what do I do? It's pervasive. So I agree with you. AI is probably overused. That's one of the reasons. Quite honestly, there's so much rhetoric out there. One of the things we do here at IBM is we say, one of our pitch in our presentation is we say, hey, it's not magic. And the reason we say it's not magic is because it's starting to get that feel from the media, because AI is going to your point, either conquer the world and take over the world, or can solve all your problems, and everybody's got to do it. If you're not doing it, you're missing out. And so we've got to just level set and give some objectivity. But speaking of, with AI being a moving target, what's your definition of AI? And where is it at, and where do you think it's evolving towards?
Right. I think there's different ways of looking at it. One, you can have a simple definition. You can just say it's a computer that can learn and think. But that doesn't tell you too much. I would go a little deeper. One is, if you can divide AI into different categories, one is strong AI, and then there's weak AI. Strong AI is 2001: Space Odyssey. It doesn't exist today. So you can computers can talk to you, computers can close the door in your ship and kill you. That's strong AI. Computers can't talk. They can respond, they can take some commands, they can interpret, they can do some interesting things, but we're not a strong AI. It's probably take years for that. Weak AI is where we're at today, and that is, it's focused on specific use cases. It could be analyzing a radiology X-ray to see if someone has cancer, as an example. Or it could be play a game of Go. We've seen this miraculous, where they beat the world champion. But we can't see that Go software start learning Shakespeare. No, it's not. That's transfer learning. It'll learn something. We humans are amazing. We can learn something in one area and apply it to something else. AI, that would be strong AI. If we could get to that point, it's amazing. Now there's the other thing. There's something called the Turing test, where He's back in the 1950s. Alan Turing, who's considered the father of computer science. Even before there was really computers, he was thinking about computers and artificial intelligence. He said that artificial intelligence is when you talk to someone, whether it be a computer, you can't differentiate that person is a computer. So they'll have a thing where they'll have a computer and they'll have a person. You're talking to both, and you just can't figure out which is which. If you can do that and talk to someone for an hour that way, that's probably AI. Wozniak, I think, even has a better. Stephen Wozniak, the co-founder of Apple, I think he has an even better definition. It's called the coffee test. If a robot can go into a stranger's home and brew a cup of coffee, we've reached strong AI. Think about it. Sounds pretty simple. Extremely complex for a computer to do.
I actually had the chance to meet Wozniak, brilliant guy. So let me ask you this then. I got several questions on what you just said. So strong AI doesn't exist today. Got it. We can't brew coffee, or we can't have a robot come in and brew coffee.
Yeah.
But so when will we have that? With all your studying, what are we looking at? How many years away are we? We 5 years, 20 years?
Predicting technology. I think it was the chairman of IBM in the 50s said maybe the world only needs 6 computers. Predicting technology is a hazardous. Is hazardous. I don't know. I have no clue. I do think we'll get there. At strong AI. I don't think it will be in the next maybe 10 years, but maybe 15, 20 years. I mean, total guess on my part, just a feel for it. But there's always breakthroughs that happen and new technologies. What's really driving AI, or has been driving AI for the last 10 years, is a combination of GPUs, very sophisticated, processors, cloud computing, the huge amounts of data we're collecting from mobile, social media, and so forth. All those, and then the innovations within the theory of AI, back propagation, from Hinton and some of these great academics that have spent decades coming up with this stuff. So all that has just come together in a very short period of time. Or just looking at Google, open sourcing TensorFlow, making it all free, which is amazing. There's just so many things, so many factors driving it, and I think that'll continue and it'll build on itself. And we're going to get there. I'm confident we will. The timing part is always the tough part when it comes to these.
Yeah. So look, I think Alan Turing's definition is on spot on. I mean, if you can talk to somebody for an hour and you don't know you're talking to a computer, that's pretty freaking good. Yeah. I don't know about how hard is it to build or make coffee? We got computers that are making all kinds of stuff today. What's the gap there? Is being able to walk into your house and get it done?
Yeah, that's right. It's navigating in an unfamiliar environment and then detecting certain things, ingredients, systems, and understanding how to work those systems. We do it because we're wired for that. We're good at that. Robots really aren't. Computer systems, vision systems, all the things you would need, nowhere near doing that at this point. I mean, we have robots that scrub floors and maybe can, pick items in a warehouse. But even if you look at Amazon, they have some of the smartest engineers in the world and robots, and in their robot centers, people in there have to wear vests so the robots don't run into them and run them over. So there's a lot to go.
So I would say that we'll be able to brew coffee before we will be able to talk to somebody for an hour and not figure out or not be able to tell that it's a person. We, like IBM, we're doing some great stuff on natural language query. But when you start, and you were talking about this earlier, when you start talking to somebody and connecting the dots between different subjects naturally, that's the key. If I'm just asking a question on something, we kill it.
Yeah.
But then when you start to say, hey, look, I'm going to go to the park. You think I should take my dog? And if I can't tell that I'm talking to a computer, that would be amazing. And
well, what's amazing is he thought about this in 1950. Think about that.
Yeah, that's amazing. It is amazing.
Think about that. I mean, Wozniak started thinking about this after the computer revolution. So yeah, I think Alan Turing is spot on. Like I said, I mean that would be the holy grail. If we get to that point, we're in a different world, and there's probably gonna be some interesting social implications of that. And I'm not sure what that could mean with jobs or how we relate to computers and so forth. But it'll be a huge game changer.
One question I often ask, I end these podcasts with the lightning round, and one question is who would you, if you had anybody you could go meet, and sometimes I put a context around it, but anybody you could go meet about a certain subject, who would it be? I presume if it was AI, the person you'd like to go sit down with and have a cup of coffee, speaking of, would be Alan Turing.
Yeah. John McCarthy would be another person.
Who was the other person?
John McCarthy. He created the computer language Lisp, created some of the early AI programs in the 1950s and 1960s, came up with the concept of the self-driving car, built some amazing robots. I mean, the guy actually built some of the core technologies for the internet, time sharing. Brilliant.
So you could have both of them at the table. That'd be a good conversation.
Yeah.
So when you're doing this studying, and you're writing your books, so how do you go? Do you go use TensorFlow? Do you start coding in Python so you can make sure that you know it end to end and you've got the education in the trenches as well as the overall strategy?
Oh, I can definitely do that. For the book itself, there's no need to do that though. There's just so much material already available. It's more about organizing material that's available, the way I look at it, in a way that people can understand. And that's why, like I said, in the book, it's not for coding. It's to learn about approaches and strategies and ways to think about AI. So, how should I implement AI in my company?
When did you say the book's coming out? Just to remind me.
It's mid-August. Yeah.
Mid-August. So it's coming around the corner.
Yeah.
Before I forget, where are we gonna be able to go get that?
Amazon is probably the easiest place to get it. You can pre-order it right now on Amazon. Put Artificial Intelligence Basics. It actually just was listed over the weekend, so it may be at the bottom of the list just because it's just new. But that's where you can find it.
Well, speaking of, you've written about, and you're talking about the need for skepticism when it comes to a lot of these moonshots with either robotics or AI. So the question is where's your mind at in terms of, you're writing this book, you've written several articles, you've written several books. How do you think about the balance between these big, bold experiments that we're talking about and the slow incremental progress you're referencing?
Yeah. Well, it's good to push the boundaries. Definitely do that. That's how, and it's good to break things, as Facebook said. I believe in all that. But I do think you have to understand where the technology is today, and that having an Alan Turing machine is probably not realistic. Curing cancer is probably not in the cards anytime soon. I mean, there's certain areas, and it may happen. I mean, I'd love it. And sometimes there are breakthroughs and amazing things that happen. I just think following technology for so long, the early applications are just not that exciting. I mean, if you look at the early computer revolution, it was the Lotus spreadsheet. Now, for an accountant, it's amazing. For average people, it's kind of interesting, but it's just a spreadsheet. So, that's what really took off. I'll give you a story. When I was writing the book, I was talking to a robot company called Anki Robots, and they create robots, consumer robots. They can be your friend, you can talk to them, and so forth. And they're really trying to push the limits on AI and deep learning. It was really interesting. They sent me a robot to take a look at it, and I wrote about 3 pages in the book about them. They were funded by Andreessen Horowitz. And then 2 weeks later, I'm just going through TechCrunch, and then I see a headline that says Anki Robots shuts down. And I thought, wow, that's interesting. I mean, they're really amazing. They're going for the fences, and then they fail. They lose hundreds of millions of dollars in the process. I think we're going to see that. and I think it's probably more on robots than software. Software is a little easier because you don't have the components and the physical aspect to it. You might be able to get, go farther on your money with a software-based AI than robot AI.
They just, I mean, so make sure I understand. So it basically shut down. They quit the funding. They just stopped it.
Yeah, that was it. Closed down. So my robot doesn't work anymore. Yeah.
It just it was over in the corner and just went.
Yeah. There was another one where they're called social robots, Jibo.
Yeah.
And they're supposed to, help you through, loneliness and something, maybe a disease or something that you have that's your friend. This little robot, and they went bankrupt too. Just imagine you've been attached to this little robot, and they've been helping you through all these things, and then they run out of money, and the robot dies because the server's down. They can't pay for the server.
Yeah, I gotta tell you, that scares me. I mean, because I have seen and read articles about like the robot dogs and stuff like that for social care, etc. But that's just creepy to me, man. I get a regular dog. Let's. I hope it doesn't go that far. Come on.
Yeah, I'm a big optimist about technology. I still have 2 little dogs that are real dogs.
Yeah, I hope so. We gotta have some sanity in all this, I think.
I do think some of the I was in the I go to Silicon Valley a lot. I was there last week, and people just get so sucked into the technology and they forget there's a real world out there.
Oh man, that's what I worry about. That's the thing that scares me. I think it's augmented intelligence instead of artificial intelligence for a reason, because I think for as many years to come it'll be augmented. And I think, by the way, there's some great stuff we're doing with cancer. I may be a little bit more optimistic than you. Curing cancer, we're ways off there. But in terms of diagnosing, getting in front of it, taking action proactively, that kind of stuff, it's amazing. This will sound terrible, but I'm waiting for, I foresee a time where, in your bathroom, I won't go into detail, but you're going to have all kinds of different measurements and stuff like that can be taken to know if anything's wrong with you in a second. Send it to the doctor. Doctor proactively comes back and says, "Hey, we saw something today that is of concern. Get your rear end in here quickly."
Right.
I think we're going to see some of that, which is going to be amazing once we get to that point.
Yeah, like I said, I'm a complete optimist about technology. Love it, and I think those use cases will be enormously beneficial to society. And I'm glad people are working on this, and that money is moving into those categories too. I think it's going to make a huge difference.
Well, in any regard, sorry to hear about your pet robot. I hope he gets another go at it, or she gets another go. I don't know if it was a he or she.
I think it was kind of gender neutral. Yeah.
All right. So, hey, thank you so much. I would like, real quick, we already talked about your book. Get it on Amazon. It's in pre-order right now, I presume. That's what you said?
Yeah. It also says it's going to come out in November, but it'll come out mid-August.
Okay, so it'll come out earlier than it states.
That's right.
Where can, outside of that, and we'll put that in the show notes just as well, but where can people find more about what you're doing, what you're working on, where to read more about you?
Yeah, so I have my own website, taulli.com, where I repurposed my Forbes articles on there. So if you just want to read, my AI Forbes articles, you can get them there. And then I have a Twitter account. It's at TTAULLI. And you can contact me either through Twitter or through my Taulli.com site.
Fantastic. We'll put that also in the show notes. Hey, if you've got a few more minutes, I'd ask one of the favorites of the podcast is just some personal questions about you. It's kind of relationship building. It's just, but you one to many. And so I asked some crazy questions, but they're I hope you're game. You game?
Sure. Yeah.
All right. So the first thing is what's the day in the life of Tom Taulli look like? I mean, what time do you get up? How do you start writing? Because you're blogging and you're investing, you're researching. It'd be interesting to know, what does a standard day for you look like?
Well, if I wake up, that's a good sign.
Yeah, that is a good sign. You're on the right side of the grass that way.
That's right. That's always good. So I usually wake up at 6 a.m. primarily because I invest a lot. The market opens on the East Coast, 9:30. I'm West Coast, so I wake up before the market opens. I usually have a big breakfast, and this might sound weird. I have raw vegetables and fruit and egg every day. I watch CNBC religiously during the morning, see what's going on with the markets. And then I always look at see what's going on in the world with technology. I'll go to TechCrunch or Forbes or Wall Street. Well, I love the Wall Street Journal. So the day really begins figuring out what's happening in the world. And then in terms of, I'll usually be writing something. So I'll spend some time writing. And then there will usually be phone calls with different people, maybe different companies. And, I might visit a company or work with a company throughout the day. Go to the gym. I always try to get to the gym. And then, at night I'm probably doing more writing. I guess I work a lot. But to me, it's not really work. I mean, it's just fun. I would do it regardless. I try to keep it balanced. Try to, a bit of a healthy diet, exercise, not just completely work all the time. Especially as you get older, I think it makes a huge difference. And
do you time box any of this stuff? Do you time box like you're writing and stuff? Do you say at 1 o'clock I'm going to write till 3, or do you just fill the itch?
That's a good question. I usually do it based on words. So maybe 1,000 words. If I could get 1,000 words for the day, I feel pretty good.
So 1,000 words a day.
1,000 words. Yeah, and it adds up. That could be 3 or 4 books a year. I do a lot of article writing, but Stephen King, I think he does 2,000 words if I remember right. I mean, he writes big books. That's how he does. That's how he looks at it too. Is number of words.
So 1,000 words a day. Now, how much of that do you toss away? I mean, I got to imagine when you're focusing on words, eventually, you may write something. I think it'd be good just to get that out of your mind one way or another. You know what I mean? It's just good hygiene, I guess.
Yeah.
But do you throw a lot of that stuff away? I mean,
well, with the writing I do, nonfiction, fiction I think would be a little different. But I think with nonfiction, although some people might think I am a fiction writer, but if it's for nonfiction, there's research that goes into it. So there's a lot of time, okay, I need to learn more about this category. I'll talk to people. There's a lot of information gathering. As I'm doing that, I'm formulating the organization, how to take that information and make it useful for people, practical, understandable for people. But, most people don't have a lot of time to read. So if you can do it in a way they can get it really quickly, then I think you're ahead of the game. The writing part is a lot of times the fastest part of it. It's kind of like AI. The data part is, all the information, getting all the information takes the time. The algorithm or the writing part of it is so fast. I mean, for me, I've done it for so long. I just kind of cruise through it. So I'll write it. 1,000 words I could probably do in half an hour.
Wow, that's pretty good.
But I have all that research, so it's not that hard. Once I have
where do you get the research? Where you I didn't hear anything in your thing about research. I see you watching TV. You're eating raw vegetables.
Well, I am reading the Wall Street Journal, reading the articles throughout the day. And if I find a topic, I go to Google. Do a lot of research there. Talk to different companies. Interviews. All that does take time. So if you look at the time it takes to write it, it's actually a lot of time. But the actual physical writing, writing the article itself is a lot kind of quick. And then, once I've written it, then I go over it again and I find out all my errors and things don't quite look right, and I change. And so there's editing I do, and then the editors will edit you too. Mm-hmm. But the research is what takes most of the time.
Yeah, but do you have a rhythm? What I want to say, a cadence? Like today, I'm going to work on my book. Tomorrow, I'm going to work on my article for Forbes. Today, I'm just going to write to get some stuff out of my head. How does it?
Yeah. So when I was writing the book, it was over 60,000 words. So I was trying to do 1,000 words a day. So I started the book early this year. Actually, when did I start? I started it February, and it took a couple months. I had 1,000 words. But I was spending a ton of time on it, though. There was a lot of research. But the writing part was actually pretty quick.
So what is it like 10-1 research?
Could be.
In terms of time?
Very easily. Yeah. Especially with something, the other thing about AI too, when you write a book, write an article is a little different, because you can just focus on topics you like. When you write a book, a lot of times you have to talk, look at on topics you're not really interested in. But they have to be there because it would not be a complete picture that was left out.
Right.
So like I have robotic process automation. I actually think it's interesting, but for me that was important to have in the book. And if I didn't really like it, I'd still have to do it. So it forces you, and if you don't know a lot about the topic, then it might be 20-1 or 30-1. I mean, it could be a lot because you're learning a lot of stuff. Whereas the history of AI was it was fun. It was kind of a little easier because I knew a lot about some of these people anyway. So that was a little easier. Robots are a little difficult because I haven't really done a lot of writing on robots, so that took longer. Deep learning took a while too. I'm not an expert in deep learning, and also I don't want to make it so overly complicated for people that they just go somewhere else because you can get to the point where people just phase out. Yeah.
One thing this reminds me of a quote that I really love from Buffett. Speaking of our investing friend here, because a lot of people ask him, well, how do you do it? He's just some genius or whatever.
Yeah.
And he says, he does this quote. Most people balk at it. He says, I read 500 pages like this every day.
Wow.
That's how knowledge works. It builds up like compound interest.
Right.
All you got to do is do it, but I guarantee many of you won't.
That's true.
And the whole point of it is, he spends his whole freaking time reading and researching.
Right.
He's saying you can do it.
Yeah.
It's not rocket science. It could be rocket science, but anyway. But his point is, and you're right, most people won't do it. It's kind of like your 1,000. Yeah, 1,000 words sounds like a lot to me, but you do it. You get up, you make sure you get it done every day, and that's how you're successful.
I think just like anything, if you do it long enough, it's kind of natural after a while. I guess he built those muscles over time, just like Buffett with his analysis of stocks. And Gladwell is with the 10,000 hour rule, or do something for 10,000 hours.
Yeah, the 10,000. Was it 10 years for 10? I don't remember.
Yeah, something like that. I believe that. I mean, after a while, it's just second nature. Early on, it's tough. But when I was young, I was so motivated anyway. I just wanted to do this. And I didn't know any else way of doing it, but working at it and getting better.
So how do you define success then? Given what you're doing, you've got a lot of different things going on. How do you get up in the morning? Hey, I had a freaking great day yesterday, or I'm killing it right now. How do you define success?
Yeah, I think you have to look at your singles and doubles and home runs. Home runs, far and few between, but when they happen, they're amazing. So I think you have to, like the 1,000 words a day thing. Those are your singles or walks. They keep you going because when you look at writing a book, it does seem intimidating. It's like, oh, how am I going to do this? And when I wrote my first book, that was the thing that was going through my head. I've never done this before, and it seemed a little intimidating. So I just said, well, I'll just pace it this way and just do it. And then, I think as long as I'm kind of accomplishing my goals, I feel like I'm a success. Whether people respond to that, I can't control that, but I can control what I work on, and that's kind of the way I look at it. But not to say that there's disappointment. I mean, sometimes you do put a lot. It could be the case. I write. I spent 2-3 months of my life on this book, and it goes nowhere. I've done that before, by the way. It's actually
I mean, that's a difference. I agree. You got to be willing to take that, and you got to know that, hey, it could fail, but that's part of winning.
Yeah, and I think when you're younger, it's different because you don't know what to expect, and if your first shot out is a big failure, then it can be tough for the second one.
Yeah.
But you just gotta keep going, and just And the funny thing about the AI book is, I didn't even. It was something that just I didn't really think about it. I mean, it just kind of happened. Um, I had no intention of writing a book, and it just kind of fell in place for some reason. So sometimes those are the best things when you're not really overly thinking about it. It's kind of when you have the best results. Just seems like this seems like the thing to do. Just seems right. You're not really overanalyzing it.
So what inspires you, Tom? What gets you up in the morning?
What's inspired. It's like a lifelong learner, and I like to go out of my comfort zone too, learning different things, different topics. So, yeah, I go to Udemy, courses on Udemy, or when I buy a book, it's not always technology books. And I think, so I think that I don't know if it's inspiration, but it does, expand my horizons and maybe think about different things that maybe I should be doing. I don't want to get too locked into a certain path either. I think we tend to get a little too focused on what we do.
So we'll say you had an imaginary friend. His name is Al. And you were saying, hey, I'm going to tell you how the best and the fastest and efficient way to learn at an accelerated pace, here's what you need to do. What would you give that imaginary friend named Al? And what would that advice be?
Oh, to learn as fast as possible?
Well, to learn, where do you go to get the information that you need? Because there's a ton of stuff out there, right?
Yeah. When I wrote my first book, it was over 20 years ago, the internet was around, but Google didn't even exist. So a lot of my research was actually going to a library, or I find some resources on the internet, but a lot of it was traditional resources or talking to people. That has changed in the last 10 years or 20 years with Google and all these online resources. So for me, a lot of information I get is online. I just simply go to Google and look things up, and that and I just find. I mean, when Google came out, it was the most amazing thing. Then what I think is this time around, writing the book, probably the most helpful resource for me was YouTube. I could go on YouTube and find researchers at Stanford on AI, and they're talking about certain types of neural networks. And I mean, 10 years ago, I would have had to go to Stanford for that.
Right.
No, just go to YouTube for free and get that information. So YouTube actually turned out to be a great resource.
Yeah, that's pretty good. I use it a lot too. But you want to learn something. I'm visual.
Yeah.
So it's really good to see it in action. I'm with you.
Yeah. No.
All right, man. You're about to release this book?
Yeah.
What's next for you?
Well, probably not a book. I'll probably just kind of see this through, see how it goes. So it'd be kind of probably more the keeping up with the Forbes part of things, the business part of things for me. In the back of my head, maybe be open to some new projects, but those are probably the areas I'll be focused on.
Now, one last, when you do your blogs, do your blogs, I mean, how do you keep your blog separate from your book? Because you're thinking about the same stuff. And if you're writing a blog at the same time you're writing a book, right, do a lot of your stuff end up in some of the blogs? The blogs, I should say, end up in the books? Or how does that work? Or do you keep it distinct?
I keep them distinct. So if I get a quote from someone, I have quotes in my book as well as my Forbes articles. They're not going to be the same quotes. They'll be different quotes. It might be the same person, but they'll be different folks. And if I describe it one way in Forbes, I'm going to describe it a different way in the book. Now, it may be similar, but I don't want it to be. I want it to be more, something unique, not that you can just go and read my blogs and, oh, why do I need to buy your book? It's just
yeah.
And you already.
That's why I asked.
Yeah. And I think the other advantage of the book is that there's topics in the book I cover I have yet to cover in Forbes. There's a lot of topics actually.
Well, it goes back to you bridging the gap. You like you were talking about earlier. Things you don't even really. Sometimes you don't find interest, but you got to have have that bridge to make it a complete story.
Exactly. So, when I write, I'm trying to think about who the reader is from the reader standpoint, and they don't have a lot of time. They're probably not very technical, and they want some practical advice. So if I can do that, I'm probably going to be successful. And I know there's a lot of people, because there are people out there who are involved in these AI projects or AI initiatives, and they really don't know what's going on, and they want to know. And if they could have, and they don't necessarily want a book that they read through. It could be a book that they can just has a handbook, and when a topic comes up and they're just not quite sure what's going on, maybe they can just go to that chapter and learn about it and help them.
Fair enough. Hey, I will end there. Tom, you've been a great guest. I've learned a lot. Again, easy to talk to. I can tell you I will be signing up for that book and also following you on Twitter. So look for me. I will be out there. You've got a fan.
Awesome. Well, I'm a fan too, and I will be a religious listener of your podcast.
All right. Fantastic. And any ideas that you have or you want to come back on, we'd love to have you because you got a lot of good ideas. We only scratched the surface. And I know you've got, look, if anybody's been out to your website, you've got a ton of different blogs and a ton of information about deep learning, AI, et cetera. It's all good stuff.
Awesome. Well, thanks very much for having me.
Well, thank you. You've been a terrific guest. I've learned a lot. And again, can't thank you enough for taking this amount of time out of your day. I'm taken away from all your writing. Research.
I've already done my 1,000 for the day.
Where are you going now? You're going to go work out, or are you going to get back into research mode?
Oh no, I'm at the office, the company I work with. So after this, I'll probably be in another meeting.
Yeah. So you're back into another meeting.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate it. And for the listeners out there, until next time, I'll see you on the podcast. See you.
Thanks for listening to the Making Data Simple podcast, where we make data fun. Be sure to visit ibmbigdatahub.com/podcasts to access the show notes and uncover even more great episodes. Remember, the views expressed here are those of the host and its guests, and do not necessarily represent the views of IBM. Until next time, over and out.